video about me hating sex? Yes and no. Do I hate sex? Absolutely not. I love sex. I love sex with my husband. We have an amazing sex life. However, there have been times in our 9 years of marriage where I have hated sex. There have been things that have hindered my sex life with my husband over these past 9 years, and I want to talk about them. We don't talk about sex enough, okay? We out here, we're grown, we're married, and your marriage needs sex, and we don't talk about sex enough. So I want to talk about it. And I want to do this video hopefully to open the dialogue, and to continue to talk about it, because sex is a vital part of marriage, and a healthy sex life helps you to have a healthy marriage. Some people's sex life is never affected. It's always been happy. You've heard people say that's the one part of their relationship, that they have no problem with. For me and my relationship, I am very emotional, and so that has not been the case for us. There are things that have hindered our sex life, and so that's what I want to talk about. The things that have hindered my sex life, and how my husband and I have gotten over those things. Okay? So, if you're squeamish, if you don't want to talk about sex, or if you happen to be my dad, hey daddy, you can exit now. X this on out. Some of my big brothers are watching this. Exit. Bye. But if you are not a big brother, a big cousin, or one of my dads, I have a biological father and a bonus dad, you may stay and let's talk about sex, baby. Hey. Okay, so let's get to it. Like I said, your marriage needs sex. Your marriage needs sex, and you need sex. Sex is good for you. Sex is good for bonding in your marriage. Sex is good for intimacy, for closeness, cuddling, releases endorphins. Sex is good for your mental health, and your brain. Sex is good for focus. It gets great exercise. It burns calories. And sex is fun, or it should be. And sometimes it's not. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to open up this dialogue and hopefully get some healing done, so that we can all get to having great sex and enjoying our sex lives. So thing number one that has hindered my sex life: stigma. I got married at 28 years old, okay? I was raised Christian. I am still a believer. I'm a Christian. And when I was single, sex just wasn't really a thing, whether you're Christian or not, although I happen to be Christian. As a young woman, people are not out here telling you have all the sex. Just go have all of the sex. It is 2019. There's a lot of liberal ideas about, sex and sexuality and getting to know your body and things like that. But I came up in the 90s. I was born in the 80s. I came up in the 90s. We didn't have social media. And I was raised to be careful with my body. Okay? Don't be out here having sex with everybody. AIDS is out here. STDs are out here. Unwanted pregnancies are out here. Don't be out here having sex. Don't have no sex. Stay away from sex if you can. And in literally go to sleep one night single, you wake up the next day, you go to the church, you get married, bam! Now it's like, have all the sex. Have sex every day. Your husband needs sex. Sex is amazing. If you don't have sex with your husband, he's going to be out here having sex with other people. That's not what you want. So the first thing that I went through in my marriage was the stigma of sex as a single person. 28 years old I was the day that we got married. And now all of a sudden I have to switch to have sex every day. Well, guess what? I wasn't used to having sex every day. I wasn't used to having sex 5 times a week. I wasn't used to it, okay? I hadn't had anything up until then, but boyfriends, hadn't really had a lot of boyfriends, had a couple of, we kicking it. So it just wasn't something that I was used to. I felt a lot of pressure as a new wife, and I felt the responsibility of a man, and everything that he needed, being on me. Like, if you don't take care of your husband, somebody else will, or your husband deserves to be taken care of. And trust me, I love my husband, and I wanted to take care of my husband. And for those of you who don't know, I married a pastor, so word on the street is, it's women all over the church, all over the place that can't wait to take care of my husband if I can. So there's a lot of pressure with that. So how did we overcome that? We talked. It was rough at first. And that's what I'm here for. I say all of the time, you are not alone. I am with you. And so I feel led to be transparent and to open up, And so listen, keeping it 100, it was rough. I didn't know what to do. I was crying all the time. My husband was miserable because I did not go through high school or college or my young adult life having a lot of sex because I was not raised that way. So it was really a lot for me. And one of the things that we did other than talk was we kept having sex, because not having sex just festers. It becomes longer and longer and longer, and then you have compounding issues in your relationship. And that issue, it did not resolve itself immediately. It wasn't like, 2 weeks later, now we're having all the sex. No. It took some time for me to become comfortable in that way, right? I had never lived with a man. And so, just becoming comfortable with my body always around somebody. My husband and I hadn't had sex before we got married. We didn't have sex while we were dating, so there are a lot of things that I just wasn't used to. So if you are newly married, or if it's been festering in your marriage and you just got a light bulb, just kind of realizing that you have to kind of code switch from single girl, saving her body, being careful out in these streets, to married, have all the sex, you're not alone. I've been through that before. Talk with your spouse. If you have to, talk with someone else. If you have a therapist, talk with your therapist, talk with your girlfriends, talk with me, hit me up in the comments, DM me on social media, but talk about it. It is a thing, and it is not always easy to transition from a life where you are protecting yourself. Not having sex is protecting you from unwanted disease, from pregnancies that you can't afford, things like that, to now you have to have all of the sex. You've gone years without having sex, and now you gotta have sex every day. Sometimes it's hard to switch. If you're in that situation right now, my sex life is great. I'm loving it, and it gets better. So that's the first thing, stigma, and switching from single to wife. The other thing that has hindered my sex life over the past 9 years, mental health, both mine and my husband's mental health. I've gone through a couple of bouts of depression in the 9 years that we've been married. It is no secret all over my social media and now on my YouTube channel that I am a huge advocate of healthy mental health. And I have dealt with my own, mental illness. And so one of the things comorbid with my ADHD is depression. Sometimes I will go into bouts of depression. And so I have been depressed and just not having a sex drive, losing my sex drive. As far as feelings or emotions are concerned, my husband has lost jobs. A while ago, years now, he lost a church, and so there are just things, when my husband has been through times where, in that time where he lost his church, where he was not able to provide for our family the way he wanted to, the way he had been used to, so just the pressure, sometimes the pressure of being a husband, a provider, got to him, that it was one time that, and I just was like, wow, okay, but that can happen. Your husband can be under pressure and be emotional too. I don't want to leave men out of this conversation like they can't be emotional and, they're horny every day all the time and nothing ever hinders them. And so I do want to say that. But yeah, I've been through depression, and it's rough because your sex life is one of the things that you can't seem to gain control over. Your sex drive, you can't gain control over, just like your eating habits, your sleeping habits. And so if you are dealing with depression, one, take care of your mental health. See somebody, see a therapist. I am an advocate of proper medication. I have a doctor who prescribes my medication for me. He and his colleagues make that medication. I will drop that link for Fast Brain on the website. They have mood stabilizers. That's what I have taken, for mood stabilization. But see a therapist, see a doctor, get some medication, do some talk therapy. If you are depressed, find out if that is what you're going through, depression, if your eating habits, your sleeping habits, your social habits, and your habits between you and your partner, like sex and affection, cuddling, are changing. It could be depression. If your husband is going through a lot, if your husband has lost a job, if your husband just bought you a new car, or you guys bought a new house, or you're planning a big savings, or something like that, where your husband is the provider for your family. He is to protect and cover your family, and he's going through things, or one of you has lost a family member. Anything that can affect your mental health, talk to your spouse, and talk to someone else if necessary. Mental health is real. And so that's one of the things, that'll make me hate sex. I don't want to have sex when I'm super sad, clinically depressed, can't really figure anything out. So get help. How we overcame that was just by doing that. I got some help. And of course, along with all of the other things in my life, my sex life began to improve because my sex drive began to come back. Something else, speaking of depression, that has hindered my sex life, made me hate sex, trying to conceive. It is no secret on my social media that we tried for 8 years to get pregnant, and we were unsuccessful. I've had 2 miscarriages. Trying to succeed can be a serious blow to your sex life. Everyone and their mama is going to tell you, they told me, oh, just relax. Oh, you're going to have a baby when you relax. Oh, it's in the Lord's hands, whatever the Lord's will. People are going to tell you things that they think are going to help you to feel better, that may not help you feel better. They didn't help me feel better. It was frustrating. The more we tried to conceive, the more we couldn't get pregnant. One miscarriage, and then a couple of years, and then another miscarriage. I began to look at sex as a job. And my whole life, there was a time when my whole life revolved around my period. Where it's time to ovulate, I want to have sex at a certain time, on a certain day. It's mechanical. I'm trying my best to enjoy it. But listen, after 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 24, 36 months, it's not fun anymore. And we have gone through times in our marriage where it's been really hard. I've had to step back and say, whoa, I need to take care of my husband. I need to take care of me. I need to take care of our relationship. We need to get back to having fun. But I cannot continue to let our sex life be affected, which then in turn affects our marriage. And so that, it was rough. That's what this video is about. It's just keeping it real and talking about the things that are keeping couples from having healthy sex lives. And trying to conceive is rough on your sex life. You're not alone. What I can say about trying to conceive is acknowledge it. Try and talk with your partner about it. Try and talk with your spouse about it, about the fact that it's a lot. It's a lot on you. You really desire this baby, and things are becoming mechanical. It's becoming a job. You and your partner decide, what are some things that can make it fun? How can you spice it up? Maybe take a month off. And listen, I've been there. I know how hard that is, because all you have is that 28 to 31 day cycle. All you have is that cycle. And then you got to wait a whole nother cycle to try and conceive. So I know how hard it is to consider skipping a month. But if it is going to save your marriage, to save your sex life, it's horrible, your husband is miserable, you're not being pleased, consider taking a month off and just focusing on having some fun sex with your spouse. I'm not saying that focusing and taking a month off and having fun sex with your spouse is going to get you pregnant, because let's be for real, y'all. Not worrying about it is not what get people pregnant, okay? I am saying have some fun sex and try and take your mind off of trying to conceive in order to help your marriage and your sex life be more healthy. Not because it's going to pop up having a baby, because if you have a baby by chance when you take a month off, or ease up on thinking about it and marking your days, great. But let's not sit around and keep telling people that not thinking about it is going to get them pregnant, because yeah, everybody isn't like that. Some people you can blow on them and they get pregnant, but everybody's not like that. So off that soapbox, and on to the next thing. So trying to conceive. Speaking of trying to conceive, as I said, I'm Christian. Thank you, Jesus. Thank the Lord for my son having a baby. Did some weird things to my sex life. So pregnant sex, let's start there. Let's start with conceiving. Pregnant sex for some people is amazing. I am hoping that our next pregnancy, we will have amazing sex, okay? Because me and my husband, we love connecting. We love our sex life. However, our first pregnancy, my hormones dried me up, and sex was painful for me. I was always extra dry, and sex was painful for me, and so that was super frustrating. If pregnancy hinders your sex life, you can talk to somebody. You can talk to your doctor about things that you can use that are safe to help you if you're uncomfortable. Some people, it's their size, they're uncomfortable, they're exhausted, they're uncomfortable. Talk to your husband. Have some fun. Do different things with your foreplay. Think about different things other than intercourse, other than penetration. But talk with your spouse. And your medical professionals, of course, include them in this conversation, and work that out. Pregnancy can be rough on your sex life. And then I had a baby. I pushed a baby out, and whether you push your baby out or they have to cut your baby out of you, and you have to have a C-section, there is a period of recovery. Your body goes through something that there's no way that you can prepare yourself for. And I have now been through being a first-time mother, but I've heard it from second and third-time mothers, because I've heard that every baby is different. And so when your body goes through something like that, it can kind of take a toll on your sex life. Do the work. That's how I got over it. You have to do the work internally. I didn't love my mom bod. I am just now, my son is 1.5. I'm just now getting used to these new hips, and curves where I didn't have curves, and let's be real. 1.5 years later, I'm just now getting to the point where I'm working out, where I'm eating better, so it took a while. So in the midst of all that stuff, my sex life took a hit as well, because I didn't love my body anymore. I wasn't comfortable in this body. And so, of course, bearing this body, and learning how this body is pleased and how this body is admired, I just wasn't feeling it. And my husband, I talked to my husband about it. My husband compliments me. He tells me how much he loves my new body, because I talked to him about it. I talked to him about how I didn't love my mom bod, and we talked. And, that's the best advice I can give you is, to talk about it. Talk about it with your partner. Talk about it with other moms. And just make sure that you are doing the work. Like I said, do the work on yourself. And don't be too hard on yourself. It is important for you to get back to your sex life. It is important for you to get back to your mental health, feeling good as a woman. But don't rush yourself. Please check for postpartum depression. um, and make sure that you are mentally okay. Going back to that one thing, mental health being something that can hinder your sex life. Make sure that you're okay mentally. And other than that, just make sure you're communicating and doing the work. And then, so trying to conceive, right? Actually conceiving, being pregnant, right? Delivering a baby, and then the baby comes out, and now the baby is taking up all of your time. And so we are new parents. My son is a year and a half. And so going from 8 years of being able to have sex whenever we wanted to have sex to being parents and now having to have sex around this little toddler that's moving, and when is he napping, when is he with his granny, whatever. And so my husband and I have actually had some fun with that. We have sex in different places now. If the baby falls asleep in our bed, we don't have sex in our bed. If the baby falls asleep upstairs, we have sex downstairs. If the baby falls asleep downstairs, we have sex upstairs. There are times, where we have sex really quick. Sometimes you got to get quickies in, if you have kids. So, just be flexible. Be flexible. Talk. I keep saying it. Talk with your spouse. Make sure that you all are communicating about ways to make situations like this better, and get creative. Have a good time. Sometimes, if it's been too many days that we haven't had sex, I'll wake my husband up in the middle of the night, and I'll tell him too before he goes to sleep. My husband goes to sleep early. He works out every morning at 5 a.m. and I'll tell him, like, I'm gonna wake you up tonight, or he'll tell me, like, I'm gonna need you to wake me up tonight. And we'll sneak downstairs, and make sure that we're taking care of our marriage and our communication, and getting our endorphins, because, like I said, sex is good. Sex is good for your marriage. Sex is good for you, for your mental health, for you to release those endorphins, for you to have fun, for you to have pleasure, and so just make sure, that you're communicating. Just make sure that you're communicating. It is important that we spend more time talking about our sex lives and talking about whether our sex lives are healthy, because a healthy sex life is good for your marriage. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is lack of communication skills. Because, like I said, a healthy sex life is good for your marriage. And when, in some of the earlier parts of our marriage, we lack the skills to communicate with each other properly, because you're learning a person. You're trying to learn how a person argues, and you're trying to get over emotions, because when you're married, that's it. It's just you and this person forever. Things happen, you remember things continue to pile up. And so dealing with your communication, here's how it used to go in my marriage. I'm feeling some type of way, so I don't want to have sex. We don't have sex, so now he got an attitude. So he's feeling some type of way. So then when he get an attitude, now I was over it, but now he got an attitude, so now I got an attitude. So now we not having sex because I'm feeling some type of way. Well, we not having sex, well, now he got an attitude. Well, I was over it, but now you got an attitude, I got an attitude. It's a cycle that keeps repeating. Let me tell you the best way to get over that, and I'm telling you from what I know. Have sex. Have sex. I don't care who mad. Have sex. One, I'm Christian, so I believe that sometimes the enemy tries to plant distraction and division into your marriage. And if you're not coming together as husband and wife, there are problems in your marriage. Do not let anything, no argument, no temporary feeling, keep you from coming together with your spouse. You committed to be with your spouse forever. Don't let anything come between the covenant between you and your spouse, okay? Don't do that. That's not good. And all that's going to do is cause more and more and more and more problems. Not having sex. That week after our anniversary, we argued the whole week. I talk about it on Instagram. There's a picture, a selfie of me and my husband smiling. We're in a bowling alley. We had gone on a date. At the end, we're in the middle of that week. But we argued the whole week. And you know what we did? We had sex anyway. Because I'm not going anywhere. He not going anywhere. So why allow the enemy to separate us? Why allow your feelings, temporary feelings, to add another thing to the discord in your relationship? So now you mad because y'all are arguing over something. Now you're not gonna have sex. Well, then soon you're gonna be mad over that. So we had sex. We had sex anyway. We were over it a week later, no longer arguing, and we still having sex. So I mean, why miss days and days and days of connecting in the most intimate way with your spouse over your temporary feelings? Now, let me say this: I don't advocate domestic violence. Domestic violence is something that needs to be handled by professionals. If you are experiencing domestic violence, please seek professional help. That is not the kind of arguing that I am talking about. I'm talking about regular arguing. There in marriage, my husband and I have been married for 9 years. In marriage, there can be some big arguments. It's not always about who washed the dishes. It can be some really big stuff that you have to get over. But like I said, how we got over it, we just kept having sex anyway. We kept kissing each other goodnight. We kept kissing each other, before we left the house. We kept hugging, just that physical connection, because at the end of the day, the goal is to stay married. So it's just your feelings. It's just your pride fighting that physical connection with your spouse. You're arguing. So, I'm washing the dishes. My husband normally comes up behind me, or I'm coming up the steps. My husband will hit me on the butt, while I'm coming up the steps. Little things like that, walking past your spouse and brushing them. You withhold touch from your spouse because you're angry. So now, because of your pride, you're going to, I'm not even going to do that. I don't want to be sweet. You want to hold on to your anger. You don't want to be sweet. I caught myself even sometimes thinking, I would hug my husband right now, but he don't deserve no hug. Time out for that. And I call that lack of communication skills, because you've got to learn how to communicate about a problem and leave that problem where that problem is. If you are communicating about a problem in parenting or finances or relationships with family members or something like that, what that got to do with your sex life? What does that have to do with hugging your husband? What does that have to do with your regular cuddle time? Why don't ever? We don't sleep in separate beds. What does that have to do with you kicking your husband out of bed? Why would you do that? That ain't got nothing to do with what y'all fighting over about your mother-in-law. That don't have nothing to do about what y'all talking about where you want this daycare and he doesn't think it take that much money for your baby to go to daycare. What does that have to do with your physical touch in your relationship? Don't let your feelings hinder your sex life. Your temporary feelings hinder your sex life with the only person that you're going to have sex with for the rest of your life. Okay? Feelings that you're having this week hindering your sexual relationship with the only person that you're going to have sex with for the rest of your life. That doesn't make any sense, y'all. It doesn't make any sense. But you know what? We don't talk about it. And that's why I want to talk about it, because I want you to know, like I say all the time, that you are not alone. I am with you. I just argued with my husband and had to check myself. You know what I'm saying? Why you not letting this man hug you? What does that have to do with anything? And so I want to continue to talk about this because, as I've said throughout this video, sex is good. Sex is good for your relationship. Sex is good for you, and you need to be having sex with your spouse. It's a good thing. And if you're not loving sex, okay, if you hate sex right now, I am asking you to take some time today, whatever day it is that you're watching this video, take some time and do the work. Journal about it, call somebody, talk to somebody about it, and then get to the place where you can talk to your spouse. Take it to your spouse and talk to your spouse about it. Squash that thing and go have some great sex, okay? Because you deserve it. Your spouse deserves it. Your marriage deserves it. The world deserves it. I am happier when I've had great sex. My husband has sex, and I'm just better off. I am a better mommy. I'm a better sister. I'm a better friend. I'm a better YouTuber. I'm just better. And so, you deserve that. Speaking of YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and keeping it 100, we're all out here, all over social media, talking about no negative vibes and, all the things that make you happy. You all over social media talking about no negative vibes, but you walking around your house withholding physical touch from your spouse? Nah, that's not it. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. If you hate sex right now, please talk about it, so that you can get your sex life back on track, so that you can have a healthy sex life. You deserve it. Your marriage deserves it. So I hope that this edition of Shh, Don't Tell Anybody helped somebody. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment. You can always DM me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm going to drop that in the box below. And my website as well. You can email me on my website. And that's it, So I hope that this video helped. And as I say all the time, you are not alone. I am with you. So I hope that this video helped. See you guys later. Bye.